Hello, here's my first video of the new year. It's just a couple days after Valentine's Day. So far I can say that the year has been off to a pretty decent start for me personally. I haven't made a YouTube video for a month and a half now, but I know you guys who follow me and interact with me regularly know that I have been active and engaging with you guys across social media. I've been keeping busy at the start of the year, not only as a creator with art commissions, with some of which I have yet to be able to share with you guys, but I've also been offline because I've had to do a lot more reorganizing and analyzing of my financial situation with the rest of my family. Uh, I don't have any major video topics in mind at the moment that I want to dedicate an entire video essay to, but I'm making a vlog right now, so not to leave you guys hanging. Okay, one thing I will talk about right now that I feel as far as discouraging news sort of is there are a few things regarding the entertainment companies currently on my mind. Yeah, I know, what a shocker. I have not engaged with any of the online discourse revolving around the Velma series because why should I? I can't see any actual benefit that would provide me since it's pretty much a show that has been beaten down and torn down to death and just burnt into fumes. But there are some of the other most talked about entertainment related news over the past week or so are things like how Disney's announcement for a fifth entry in the Toy Story saga, along with Frozen 3 and Zootopia 2. And it was also announced last night that DreamWorks is doing a live action How to Train Your Dragon. Now, with Toy Story 5, yes, I was pleasantly surprised with the fourth one, but just how many hoops are they going to have to jump through to make a fifth one work? For Frozen 3, can't say I'm surprised. One of the biggest franchises of all time of the 2010s, it was only a matter of time before anything of that caliber would get a third installment. Zootopia 2, on the other hand, I fully admit I have expressed that I've seen plenty of potential in, and even admitting to enjoying the Disney Plus original series Zootopia Plus, even if I did feel they could have done more with it, or still could do if there were to be more than simply 6 episodes. However, the discouraging thing is that I'm fully aware is that ideal version of Zootopia sequel I have in my head may most likely be something completely different from what's in the heads of whomever will be in charge of directing it. Same thing with How to Train Your Dragon live action. Since How to Train Your Dragon was adapted from a book series that, well, the DreamWorks animated classic took a lot of liberties with, I think that a remake lends itself to some room for more possibilities if they want to draw more inspiration from the book series. But again, I know that that's my version, and they probably have an entirely different set of plans for their version. And that, I would say, is my biggest conflict that lies with these announcements. It's hard for me to bring myself to care, not only because I've been feeling disillusioned, well, with Disney in particular, and the direction they've been heading over the past few years, even before and after Bob Chapek's time. One of my first few major video series on this channel was me discussing my concerns about The Lion King 2019. More than the fact that I didn't have high hopes from it from the start, I can remember that I was worried about what it would spell for the future of Disney in general, especially with all their other practices like buying up all these other major corporations. But I did try to be as fair and as level-headed with the situation as I possibly could, and tried to defend the other side at least a little bit. Maybe it wasn't going to be as bad as it looked, maybe they can turn it around and surprise me, maybe there's more value to some of these things than I'm giving them credit for. At the very least, I tried to be respectful of the company's decisions even if I personally disagreed with them, which also meant respecting other people's rights to make a living, including making movies that I personally don't think are good, because people are people at the end of the day. Sadly, it seems as though my fears for the path of Disney was starting to head down have been coming into fruition as of late. From oversaturation of things like the trend of live-action remakes, or the never-ending MCU, along with a whole bunch of other things, it's safe to say that Disney is currently, on drugs that they can't put down. And it's not helped by the announcement that Bob Iger has fired 7,000 animators in his restructuring of the company. I do remember going from expressing my Lion King 2019 videos how there was once this concern that this oversaturation with nostalgic content was going to stifle the production of new original content. Then going in the opposite direction, saying that there's more original content out there than people are looking at. And yeah, there is some non-franchise stuff spritzed here and there on Disney Plus and in other venues, not just animated, with varying degrees of quality, though nothing I've really heard anyone praising as a masterpiece. Uh, but, well, as far as Disney's theatrical stuff, the only stuff that people seem to want to go see nowadays is the MCU stuff, yet again. And even with uh, potentially interesting material that has yet to be released, whether it be original content like this year's upcoming animated films Wish and Elemental, or upcoming sequels to Zootopia and Inside Out, I can't help but question my current devotedness to Disney. Or even in DreamWorks' case, when they've announced a Kung Fu Panda 4 for next year. I mean, I still do enjoy some of the content that they've been putting out. I even thought Disney's flop Strange World was fine, and I could see how it could grow to garner more followers over the years, like some other of Disney's flops in the past. But I still find myself asking whether the content is strong enough or not just quantifiable enough to warrant my attention to them, especially knowing what operates behind the doors of the business. And it's not just Disney. There's also things, not just Disney or DreamWorks, there's also things regarding Netflix. Now, my family decided that they couldn't afford to keep their Netflix subscriptions this year, and after some breakouts of their news regarding some of their shady business practices, especially with the way that they treat their animators on their original animated projects, I can't really say that. Uh, I don't exactly feel guilty in not tuning into Netflix, but at the same time, this did mean that I was missing out on some other great animated films and shows from other great content creators over the latter half of last year and the start of this year, such as Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, Wendell and Wild, and My Dad the Bounty Hunter. But there's also been other news coming out about Netflix, such as how it was recently revealed that the brutality that the characters in the Squid Games were subjected to was not too far off from what has been happening to the actors in the show. Jessie Gender recently made a video discussing this on her smaller channel, Jessie Gender After Dark. Now, a third topic I wanted to talk about is, speaking of Jessie Gender, another example is the Hogwarts Legacy. Jessie has made several extensive videos about how she has been made a target for transphobic hate, especially after being directly tweeted by J.K. Rowling. And she and other online trans personas, such as the Council of Geeks, have brought up some of the hype surrounding Hogwarts Legacy, saying that a person can't truly call themselves an ally to the trans community while purchasing and endorsing a game that supports an economy that harms the trans community directly, especially since J.K. Rowling herself declares that she is the one who directly benefits most from the purchase of any new Harry Potter merchandise. But this also meant that Jessie, as well as probably plenty of other trans people, have been branded as a bully to people who want to buy and play the game. She had to addendum this by saying, by all means, play whatever game you want to play, but own your decision to do that, and please recognize how it affects others. And just yesterday, I found something similar, if maybe not quite as harmful, with the Mattel Company. I'm not talking about them rebooting Barney. I'm talking about how they faced a lawsuit denying a request to dedicate even so much as a single day to making their Thomas the Tank Engine land parks sensory-friendly for children with autism. You know, since Thomas has resonated with so many autistic folk, including one of my younger cousins, that they make up a huge chunk of its fan base. So, with all of that, I completely understand why independent creators, even a few of whom I've known, are none too keen on submitting their creations to them, even though the downside means that the range of the audience they reach and they have is more limited, and they have to do all the marketing on their own, even though that takes time away from them as creators. The reason I love the art of storytelling and entertainment is because of its ability to reach so many people at once with just a single story or entry. But the sad reality is that the way these kinds of stories operate, it's that the people who play into their operations, be they ones who are working in the business or clients to sell to, aren't really seen as people. Instead, they tend to be seen as products themselves, just as much as whatever they are creating are seen as products, rather than works of art. Of course, in reality, it's only people who can connect with people. Behind whatever work of art you love are the people who found new ways of packaging certain philosophies and lessons that you took away from said art. And even the artists who have made big names for themselves working for these corporations, I'm more interested in hearing what they have to say, and if there's anything I can learn from them that makes me admire them more as people, and what I can take from them to apply to my own life. And for that reason, I want to emphasize the importance of what you owe yourself as well as what you owe anyone you interact with. I do my best whenever I'm working for someone or selling something to them, or even making videos like this to share my thoughts, to value them as individuals more than just collective audience. To let them know that whatever I give to them, I'm interested in giving them the best version that I possibly can, and I hope to stay that way, even if/when I get to the point where millions of people are consuming something I made or had a part in making. Because I feel I owe it to them as people. As much as I vouch for artists being well compensated for the work they do, just as with anybody else in their respective profession, I'm a believer that love your neighbor as yourself, which especially applies to if that neighbor is willfully investing their own personal time, attention, and hard-earned money into what you create, because that's essentially them opening up to you. If I'm jerking off somebody else who values the work I do for them, I am jerking myself off by undermining the value of my own work. Because if they're opening up to me, but I'm not opening up to them if that's what I do. And I recognize that there is most certainly at least one person who feels the same way I do, even behind the worst pieces of art that have ever been produced, at least collaborative ones. Which is why I don't ascribe to this ideology that I've heard going around on YouTube and TikTok from people who say that they're tired of such things as Disney remakes or these franchise entries or the MCU and have no interest in going to see them anymore, but begrudgingly do so saying it's their job. Because that's not a form of open engagement and thus not a form of good faith criticism. And it's essentially just a big waste of everyone's time, especially to anyone on a team of a movie or show who genuinely does care about making it the best version of itself that it can be. The most it might do is give the person talking about the show a brief dose of attention, very much a temporary one, but the movie or show is still going to be there at the end of the day, and its commercial performance most likely doesn't rest on the weight of any one individual's opinion. People say that they continue to badger these companies for creating these supposed soulless products because they have the right to demand better content, but others, including executive higher-ups, may just view that as acting entitled and elitist. I'm not here to declare who is more right in which scenario, because there have been plenty of recorded instances of both sides being right as well as wrong. Though, as I've been stating, I definitely agree that these corporations have an over-obsession with their bottom line, and that the people in the higher power have oftentimes become too powerful for their own good. In their own time, they may come around and recognize their mistakes, but at the end of the day, they're not there to cater to you or me specifically, which means we don't owe them. You don't owe them anything if you don't think it's worth your while in the long run. I just said earlier here that I've been doing my best to respect individuals' and companies' rights to make certain decisions, and generally I still do, but I don't condone decisions that are at the expense of hundreds or even thousands of people at a time. But it's a matter that's bigger than me alone, and there's only so much information that I or any one person has that can maybe key to figure out the solution to a problem. And at the end of the day, the problem is theirs to solve, their lesson to learn, and their consequences to suffer if they fail to learn. I currently don't play any video games, but even if I did, I'm certain that I could think of dozens of newly released games other than Hogwarts Legacy that I would rather invest my time and attention in a quest to support something new and fresh from aspiring creators, and even supporting marginalized groups along the way. But even then, I know fully well that Hogwarts Legacy is most certainly going to be a big hit, especially when I pass by posters of it at the mall, and I can't stop other people from playing it if they want to. Same with Disney or Netflix or Mattel or DreamWorks. At the same time, though, the hardest part of all this is that it's hard for me to get hyped up for anything anymore, the way I used to be able to. There is, of course, the prominent worry that getting hyped is another way of setting oneself up for disappointment. But apart from that, in addition to knowing that every source of distribution of entertainment has its share of shady practices, I know there's going to be voices of doubt coming from here and there among the audience about how they don't have high hopes for whatever it is, or even that anyone, or even some who go as far as say that anyone who goes to see something big is disgracing and degrading the art form, maybe even certain people in some way. Maybe this is just a stage in my life. Maybe before I know it, I'll be able to work my way through it and will once again see the day when there's something I'm so eagerly anticipating that I literally physically am having trouble sitting and waiting for it. But the thing I can say for the time being is that the best bit of advice I can share is whatever you do, whatever you decide to go see or consume, own it. Own your choices. Own own your choices of whatever it is you decide to create, consume, or how you treat other people. Uh, but more than that, you owe yourself more than just to be obligated to see, read, or play something just because it's a hot topic. If you promise yourself to see it, you should promise yourself to at least be open-minded about it. If you see people being stigmatized and mistreated, vouch for them to get the justice that they deserve, to get better treatment, and make your voices heard as best you can, and advocate for donations and such. But spend just as much, maybe even more time to searching and supporting groups and businesses that do have a good track record of staying true to their words about how much they value their workers and audiences alike. The ones that actually do respect them and do actually advocate that these people, get respected as people. Because, well, by the end of the day, it isn't one's mere opinion that changes the world. It's one's example. So that's all I have to say for you today as for my first video of the year. I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to hearing from you some more. And until next time.